Thank you so much for staying here on the AM show. It's Relationship Friday, when we get the opportunity to talk about matters of the heart and emotions. I know you laughed at a lot. And life coach Amos Kevin Annan is here. I'm so excited. How are you?
Excited seeing you, B.
It's been a long time.
Yes.
It's been
endless,
a long time.
But thankfully we have ended it.
Sure. Also, let's talk about desires. Because, I mean, when I read through the subject of discussion, I was asking myself, Ish, this is quite deep, you know. Wandering affections.
Yeah.
What are wandering affections?
Well, I mean, it's got to do with endearment that have gone AWOL. They've gone up, I mean, wild. They've gone riotous. They've gone beyond the bounds of decency and control or containment. So when we say wandering affections, we're looking at people's desires and the thought of attachment that have gone beyond acceptable limits. So for instance, you are in a relationship with a person you consider significant. Then all of a sudden you go to the office and then you notice that you're endearing yourself with another. And that endearment begins to obstruct or interfere with your capacity to fully commit to the one you're in. That's a wandering affection. Others notice it, others don't notice it, but they are dragged along.
So if I get you right, if I am in a committed relationship and I come to the office and there's this other person who seems to be getting too much attention from me, I can't take my mind off the person,
Yeah.
I'm, you know, getting onto the person's Facebook page all the time, trying to look at what he's up to, that wondering.
Gradually what you're doing is you are endearing yourself to this individual. Now that endearment will create a sense of affinity where you become attached to the individual. So you notice that this fondness around this fellow, whoever he or she may be, is clearly obstructing your total commitment to your initial significant person. Now, for those who are in marriage, it comes at undermining your desire to be content with what you have. So there's a great sense of dissatisfaction with whoever you consider your spouse. So you realize that you are now having this person consistently and constantly in your mind. You're struggling to get rid of them from your thoughts. You wake up in the morning and you are relishing the possibility of reading from them. You're going to bed and you are inclined to say goodbye. You may not even say goodbye to whoever is your spouse. But then there's this strange emotional affinity which is created between you and this other party. If you want to be blunt, you can call it a flirtatious endeavor. Yeah.
So is that why you have cases where a spouse says, I don't know what has changed about me? With the issue of contentment, so that initially you wouldn't even complain about how I look, but now you want me to shave my hair this way, you want me to look that way, so that I can just look like that person you're endeared to.
Oftentimes that is one thing that you would see. The individual now wants to see this other person and whatever they are endeared to in the person they are committed to. And that can be very frustrating, especially when it is that those demands or requests do not particularly sit well with you. And for you, you don't see why you should look that way because you think you are distinct enough and want to be accepted that way. And acceptance for women is a big thing. I mean, they want to be accepted for who they are and how they appear. And you don't want them to look somebody else. And so many times they will not say this person is the one I'm referring to, that you should look at our new template. Now, for the males, I mean, that won't come that way. Theirs is more of logical inclinations, thoughts, reflections, and then that wells up in desire. And which desires, when triggered, makes it very difficult because then the guy begins to get opportunistic. And that's where they begin to do all kinds of weird stuff just to get you fair or foul, and that's unfortunate.
But is this caused by maybe a certain emotional suffering from your committed partner? Could that lead to this?
Well, it is easy when it is that what you are expecting to have been supplied in your primary relationship, if absent, for you to outsource those things. I mean, in this age of outsourcing of services within the corporate setting, it's not surprising to see that people are equally, I mean, outsourcing. And then also sometimes they get into a stage where, because they are dissatisfied with their current experience, they look forward to something wilder, something with a wow factor in it. And that wow may have been there earlier, but currently is no more. And so then it pushes you into a situation. We must also concede that there are other individuals who play on the keyboards of other person's emotions because they want to distract you. I mean, there have been countless stories of people deliberately setting others up so they can lure them and seduce them into situations that compromises a relationship. For instance, a gentleman can tell a lady that, I know you have this guy in your life, but I don't think he deserves you. And I am the one who deserves you. So they drop this soundbite in your memory, and then you begin to chew upon it. And then you begin to identify that, oh, really, this guy has a point. And the validity is so created in the point that has been shared, then gives you difficulty to commit. So then you create a tolerance and accommodation for this individual to come into your life.
I mean, as you're talking, there's a lot going through my mind. I'm thinking of 1,001 possibilities for people to flirt.
Oh, yeah.
For example, if a married woman is being abused at home, it's no justification,
It's
though.
no justification, but it's been rationalized.
You come to work and then you find out that this person is very nice. He's going to get lunch and he would ask you, do you want a drink? Should I get you a drink? Sometimes, is it possible for it to start as a very clean relationship, no intentions to flirt?
It's always innocent. It appears innocent, let me say it that way. But the parties involved can feel the drool. You can feel being drooled along. You can then anticipate that, hey, this thing, if I don't get measured, can create a problem for me. Sometimes people can see the red flags hoisted in front of them that you're overstepping your boundaries. You're going beyond your limits. And they give themselves the assurance. It's like the toad that was put in water and gradually they steamed it. As the water got warm, the warmer it was enjoying it because warmth is very good. It's cozy, it's chilling, it's thrilling. Now those thrills are there to keep you connected still. And if you do not take a decision that I don't want to go beyond this, I don't want to get it personal, I don't want to get it private, I don't want you to become a confidant. The moment a person becomes any of these, you notice that your resilience and resistance drops.
Interesting, very interesting conversation. But you can join us if you have a story to share or there's something you don't understand. 0302211691, 0302211692. I'll go over it again, 0302211691 or 0302211692. Just join the conversation. So how do I know, what are the signs to pick if I'm treading into, a very dangerous zone with a colleague at work? It may even be somebody you're idolizing, right?
Exactly.
A pastor,
yes,
a preacher.
I mean, it's always within our ideal that we become vulnerable. A person who does not fall into your ideal template can never make you vulnerable. So we all need to pay attention to who is our ideal, because your ideal template is that which appeals to your sensitivities and you make commitments to them. So it would always start innocently, but it drags along. So you realize that, for instance, this was a person which between you and them had high degree of protocol. Then all of a sudden you begin to use words that are emotive, words that are no longer showing that there is a certain protocol between the two of you. So that diminishes, and then you start getting personal. The commentaries get personal, the invitations are getting very personal, and sometimes innocent touches come in. One can feel it. You see, these are embers.
Yeah.
They are
We
set
know.
on the loose. You can feel it, you know it.
But we try to deny it.
When you are out of the presence of that person, you begin to reflect and you get the nudges. But sometimes we say, oh.
Let me let you hold on. Nicholas Abanga, you're calling us from Bolga. What's your story, Nicholas?
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Wow, thanks a lot for your program.
Nicholas,
Hello?
let's listen to you. We can hear you.
Yeah, I have a little story. I have a woman. Hello?
Nicholas, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, and she's so glued to a certain guy she calls a friend. Just like he was talking, and all the time she tells me there's nothing. Hello?
Nicholas, please go ahead. We can hear you.
All the time she tells me that she has a guy, a friend has a guy. All the time she tells me that the guy is just a friend. And she keeps on telling me the guy is very good, the guy is so nice, some things of that sort. And I don't know how it is. I feel so bad about it. Mostly she chats with the guy for long, even late in the night. I don't know.
Nicholas, have you tried telling her how you feel about this other friend?
Yes. When you tell her, she tells you that the guy is so nice with her. There is nothing going on. Just that the guy is a nice guy.
All right. Mr. Annan will answer your question shortly. And for me, the question will be, is there anything such as a nice guy? Should you just take it? Nicholas, thank you very much. But let's speak to Prosper Wuni, who's calling us from Nandom. Prosper, let's hear your story.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, Prosper.
And thanks for always having this program every Friday. Yeah,
thank you for always watching.
I've also had an experience like that. I was working with this organization. The man and the wife were my bosses. So anytime they come in the morning, the lady is always so close to me. So there was a time like that. She boldly told me she doesn't know, but that attraction she's having for me is much stronger than the attraction she's having for the husband. So I told her, well, once is this way, why don't you talk to your husband and you find a way out? And that, though I realized that it was a mistake, me telling her to tell the husband. Yeah. So later on, she went and told the husband, and the husband advised that a friend of his is having the same company as he was having. So what you do is that I should rather be transferred to the friend's company to let that to break that closeness between him and then the wife. So
and did it solve the problem?
Yes, it did. The man called me to thank me. He told me that actually the wife later on told him that I asked her to tell him about the attraction she's having for me.
All right.
So, yeah, he thanked me, and then, yeah, I think we are still communicating.
All right.
As a family.
And Prosper, did she tell you why she was so endeared towards you?
According to her, I'm always smart, and whenever I go wrong, I apologize. And the husband argues, even if he knows he's wrong.
Okay. Interesting.
Also, when I'm chatting with her, mostly I'm always open to tell her the truth. But the husband will only be mute about whatever is worrying her. Sometimes she'll ask, oh, how do I look? Then maybe I'll say, oh, madam, you look beautiful. The husband will never say anything according to her.
Okay.
All right. Those were some of the things.
Thank you so much for sharing your story, Prosper Wuni. So there you have it.
What has saved Prosper is that the woman verbalized it. Now you can imagine if it was only internalized and not expressed through any verbal communication. Prosper wouldn't know.
And
so what normally will happen is that he will be a victim. because the woman will draw rings around you. It's admiration that moves into attraction, that begins to incite affection. So if you want to truncate it, you've got to check that trajectory. It's admiration, attraction, affection. And that's exactly what was happening to the woman. Thankfully, there was reasonability amongst them. But that does not actually curtail the presence of the affection. It only dependent on the goodwill of the woman that she's no longer going to pursue that course of action.
And you could see that the woman wanted to stop it. But in a case where the person says,
let's
look,
go.
I'm all out for this.
Yeah.
But interestingly, the causes, he mentions that the woman said he was quick to say sorry.
Yeah.
It talks about contentment. But you see, the issue of contentment, sometimes if you have a husband who doesn't apologize even when he's wrong or does not praise you as a woman, you tend to appreciate that in other people. That's
what I talked about, the outsourcing. Clearly, the woman was longing. She has an unmet need, which now she finds that somebody else is meeting. And that makes you vulnerable. And we all have needs. Wherever a person decides to touch where you have your needs, clearly you're going to respond in the affirmative. And so this woman had a need. The need was to be noticed, to be appreciated, to be affirmed.
Okay.
She wasn't getting it. She gets into the office and somebody is affirming that. And she becomes vulnerable because she's human. What she needs to do then was to contain any expression of unnecessary affection, because then that can draw you into intimacy. This is what happens, especially when you have women in superior positions who are having all these checkered marital difficulties at home. They become vulnerable to younger staff who show so much interest, so much commitment, so much courtesy. They are polite towards you. They literally adore you. And here you are in a home, you're not being celebrated, you're not being noticed. And the clamor, the craving to be adored makes you vulnerable. So it's very important that each one of us get to know where we are vulnerable the most.
All right, then let's answer quickly the first caller's.
I mean, being just a friend.
Yeah, being just a friend. I mean, a lot of gentlemen I've met do not like that. They don't want their girlfriends to have that one male figure who seems to be, a competitor. But is it right to even
Who wants a rival? Nobody wants a rival in this life. Everybody wants to be treated as unique and distinct, and therefore that exclusivity. Clearly, Nick is threatened by the lack of exclusivity. And he feels he's sharing the lady, whether it's right or wrong. That is his perception. Okay. And usually perception, whether real or perceived, can be evoking the same sentiment in an individual. Okay. So he needs to also cool down. Sometimes there may be nothing. It's just that familiarity and then the frequency has created a certain loop and vacuum in the person. So that loop then wants to be fed all the time. The vacuum also wants to be filled. And so maybe you need to find creative ways of engaging this lady. Is she looking for you on social media and not finding you? So there's an alternative. Okay. But we must develop a culture where we say we don't have alternatives to our significant people.
And I think that some men should make their presence more felt in the lives of their partners.
Ladies, you see, some ladies are not communicating to the guys how much they need them.
Wow, interesting. Let me just pause you there. Stephen Laughingstone calling us from Elubu. Good morning, Stephen. Hello, Stephen. Hello, Stephen. Well, we are struggling. Hello, Stephen. Well, unfortunately, we seem to have a challenge there with Stephen's line. So you were talking about ladies communicating and not communicating enough.
You see, sometimes some women assume that they're dealing with females by the way they conduct themselves. You should remember that you are a female and he's male. And there are some things that will mean much to you that would not necessarily mean much to a man. He may use it as a conduit to access you in the initial stages, but he would have reneged on it because that's not his natural default.
More callers, Kwesi Opong in Kumasi. Thank you. Good morning.
Hello, good morning, pretty lady.
Hi, good morning. Is this Kwesi Opong?
Yes, I'm Kwesi Opong from Kumasi.
Oh, Kwesi Opong. All right, Kwesi, what story do you have to share?
In fact, you are really discussing a very interesting topic this morning. Mine would be like advice before I do my story, but you see, number one, ladies, okay, especially ladies, should take it easy. They should wait for the right time before they go into relations, because some things I'm getting older, so they just take whatever comes, and when they get in and see the remedy, before they meet somebody like their choice, then that they bring in this thing. And most of some guys who look like that nice have fallen victim of the situation and the circumstance. So this is just advice to my ladies and then guys who seem that nice, who have this. You see some guys like my, I don't want to bring my own story, but you see, at times we meet some people and how we conduct ourselves, they will testful. Okay, so we have fallen not really victims, but I almost, because just by the grace of God.
Okay.
So I also advise my guys that they should be vigilant, especially the married one.
Vigilance. Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing with us, Kwesi Opong Kumasi. So he's bringing us to the more or less conclusion of this conversation about how to deal with endearing affection. Yeah. He suggested that men should be vigilant, and also about people waiting for the right person. But I mean, this is what I personally believe, that you may think you're okay until you put your mind to the fact that I like who I'm with, I'm content with who the person is. You still will see other people who have the potential, you know, to be that person you want.
It's important that we understand that admiration does not necessarily mean you should be attracted to the person.
Okay.
And being attracted to someone does not mean you give yourself away by showing so much affection. Okay. Because then that can easily develop an attachment with these individuals. And so we should all know our limits. We should set boundaries for ourselves. The extent to which you can go, even in complimenting people, the extent to which you can go getting physical or touchy with somebody. There are some individuals a hug would mean very little, will not hurt them. But there are some individuals, they benefit from that as well. So you've got to know who you are dealing with. The fabric of the individual is important in this conversation. Then also the issue of contentment. For me, I think that this generation suffers an acute condition of dissatisfaction and discontentment. And it's like, I have this and I still want another one. And oftentimes you see selfishness playing into it. And it leads people into the state of manipulating others to have their way, and all these unfair practices that are going on. It has even pushed people to create open relationships. Oh yeah, that's a minefield. That's a minefield. we could raise it one of these days and look at it. But it's so sad why we're getting into a self-destructive mode, you know. And people should not play on others' emotions. And that's a very important one. Sometimes we think, oh, I can contain it, I can handle it, until you get overwhelmed. And when you're overwhelmed, you realize that you don't have the resources to be able to overcome this tidal wave. So this is what I get. There's some people who, it may seem like an innocent relationship and it ends up in that. But there are some people that their vulnerabilities are taken advantage of. Oh, definitely. So the two scenarios are there. Yeah, the fact that a worker can see that, okay, this woman needs something, or maybe you've been talking too much about your relationship in the office, and so someone sees an advantage in that and says, okay, let me give her what she's lacking or what she needs. And sometimes it could just be a very clean relationship that will end in that. But for me, I think, you are the life coach, let me know if I'm right or wrong. I think it starts from the mind. Once you tell yourself, I'm not doing this, these are my boundaries, and I'm not crossing them, you can survive. Well, it is said that thoughts are the grandparents of actions. Okay, so to that extent, we understand that whatever your frame of mind is, it pans out in your activities, your actions, your undertakings. So to that extent, I can agree with you. But once you start having those thoughts, there's the need to put in place a regulatory framework. You must regulate that. Otherwise, you're going to get into a situation where you have your hands burnt and then you mess up terribly.
All right, let's hear Timothy Abeire from Navrongo. Good morning, Timothy. Hello, Timothy. Oh, well, we lost him on the line. I'm really sorry about that. I'm sure he was holding on for quite some time. But James Ayete from Krobo Dumase. Good morning, James.
Good morning.
Let's hear your story, James. Hello, James.
Hello.
Yes, let's hear your story.
All right. It's all about being faithful in a relationship. Because if you are not faithful in your relationship, you end up having some of these kind of actions that are coming. You know, there are a lot of actions which are unspeakable, and people hide them, and as a result of this, it ends up in the bad news. So I think the best we can do is to be faithful and to live to one person. I think one man, one is good.
Someone will say easier said than done, but thank you for sharing your thoughts with
clearly
that,
we need to
James.
train our affections.
Yes.
Like I said earlier, you would always meet somebody you admire. You would always meet somebody you feel attracted to. But to what end?
Yes.
You see, you always have to ask yourself, who am I? What are my commitments? Am I going to truncate a commitment simply because I have this
Tingly feeling.
Exactly. It's a thrill, an invitation to chill. You know, you would always find that around you. And unless you have your head properly screwed on and you know where you are heading towards, you are always going to be potentially either a victim or a perpetrator of sin. You know, there are some individuals who set themselves to play on people's emotions. Those individuals, they are there. They won't verbalize that. But they would get themselves endeared to you. That endearment is part of human existence. We endear ourselves one to another. But what are the parameters within which the endearment can be acceptable? And where are the excesses that needs to be cut out? If you don't identify those, then you'll be just a fluid situation where you just move along and you become like an amoeba which takes the shape of every container that it is put in. So males, females potentially can become susceptible to endearing themselves to others other than their significant persons. Having said that, the second thing is that we must be aware when these things are happening. It's a trajectory. It can be a slippery slope. For others, it's an uphill task. You've got to identify that. And some of the things you can see is that the person is constantly on your mind. They are in your face, more or less, not in a negative sense. They are on your case. They show so much interest in your welfare, your well-being. They are concerned you didn't come to the office. Oh, what's happening to you? I haven't seen you today. I thought you were not around. And the tone, the language is soothing. It gives you a certain sense, oh, this is comfort and cozy. Okay? And gradually you start making time for these individuals. And once you start making time out and you're sitting here having a cool time, you don't feel like even going back to whoever you are in a committed relationship or union with. That means you're moving away from it being this formal, structured interaction to a more personal, private, and they are soon going to be your confidant. The moment the person becomes your confidant, that's where the challenge begins.
That's where it starts. Well, from what you're saying, I personally believe it's easy to snap out of these things.
You can. It doesn't matter
snap
your
out.
status.
Believe that you can. You just have to make up the mind to do so. And he's also been telling us, look, you can admire someone without getting affectionate or attracted to the person. It can end there. And for me, one thing I do is, if I see you and you have a good haircut, I say, that's a nice haircut. And I leave it there.
You see, leave it there, because for others, they will not verbalize it, but then they internalize it. And many of the sons of Adam have that major constraint. Let me also caution that it's not only when you talk to a male, say you're a female, talking about your relationship not working, that will create problems for you. There have been situations where females have confided in fellow females who have also told other males that this, my friend, her lover is not giving her attention. So the guy then hears it.
Sees an opportunity.
Opportunity. He comes through the back door access. And unknowingly to you, you get yourself warmed into it. Then all of a sudden, your significant person now changes his mode of operations. He becomes better. Then you are in a quandary because here you are in a dilemma. The person who was not acting right all of a sudden changes and is improved on his game. And here you are, you have gotten warm with this individual who has no business being there. And now you are in a dilemma. And then that creates a big problem.
Oh, this conversation, I'm sure even if you had a day, we couldn't finish because it's so extensive. There are just a lot of strings attached to it. But would you want to share your number if someone is struggling, they want to get out of a flirtatious relationship?
Numbers are always a nightmare.
I know. But just to help.
Suffice it to, if you want to reach me, you can use this line, not any other line that you may have heard. And use a text message. I prefer text to any other form. Then I will get back to you. 0244 27 3368. 0244 27 3368. Let's keep being affectionate, but let's avoid wandering affections.
Thank you. That's a nice way to sum it all up. Thank you so much for joining us. He's a life coach, Kelvin Amos Annan here. We've been talking about wandering affections. Thank you so much for all those who called in, and for all those of you who didn't call, but you got some piece of advice. Thank you also so much for watching. That'll be it for this conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day.